Welcome, John Jaquish, to the show. How are you today?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Well, I'm excited because, this is a room packed with small business owners and entrepreneurs, and I'm always trying to encourage them to reprioritize their health. Our health is our wealth. I know that you help people around the globe to get ready. That includes many of the players in the NFL, Tom Brady himself. Your X3 machine has really been a game changer for so many athletes, but today, we're going to talk about how that can help small business owners reprioritize their health. And so, before we do that, let's walk everybody through how did we even get to the point where we created the X3? What was the why behind it for you? What was the driving force behind why you wanted to create this?
Well, it first started. I mean, you actually know the answer to these questions, but the it first started with osteostroke. So I developed a medical device to treat bone density. Works better than any device, any medication ever clinically trialed. It just puts compressive force on bone. So compressive on its axis. So like the length of a bone. So this is the length of a bone, and we're compressing it from end to end. And then when that compression is released, the bone is stimulated to pull in minerals and recalcify, making the bone more powerful and more resistant to fracture. But as I was performing the clinical trials, this was a University of East London study. As I was in the United Kingdom, the physicians who were putting the subjects through, as well as other people in the community, they would look at the loading and they would say, "This, we're putting huge forces through the human body with postmenopausal women, by the way, who have never exercised." So they started with very low level and they built up to 7, 8, even 9 times their body weight. So like incredible forces. Now you're in an isolated position where you normally absorb high impact. So think of like top of a squat. That's how they were loading their lower extremities. So the human body is basically, it was amazing the results it got for bone density. But what was more interesting to the physicians who worked at this hospital was that, like, wow, like this is so different than weightlifting. What kind of forces do people use when they lift weights? Because these are physicians, like a lot of them don't exercise or don't know much about it,
Yeah.
and they admittedly don't like research or look into exercise at all. There's some reasons for that. Some of them make sense, and some of them are sort of bad reasons. But they wanted to know, like, what do people like normally lift? And it was really like 1/7 of the amount of force. So what I realized is we're really weak in our weak range of motion. So like when you go to do a push-up and your nose is against the ground, just that getting off the ground part is really difficult. And then as you straighten your arms, it becomes a lot easier. And that's everybody. You see somebody cheating when they do push-ups. They do really sort of high push-ups. They don't go down all the way because they're trying to avoid the difficult position. So I thought, okay, I wonder if anybody's changed the resistance as you move. And as I was Googling it, it came up to this term variable resistance. Okay, that sounds like what I'm looking for. And then it kind of clicked. I've seen this before. People have tried this. There's a guy named Louis Simmons who is in Columbus, Ohio, who runs a gym called Westside Barbell. And that gym, using his methods, which were variable resistance, has broken more world records. This is a 3,000 square foot gym, broken more world records out of that one gym than any country on earth, including the United States. So clearly, the man had the answer. And so I started studying what he was doing and some of the clinical research that came from him and comparing it to what I had learned. And the only variation that I saw was that we could have a greater ratio from bottom to top. Another thing about Louis, he was training people to break world records in strength, whereas what I was thinking about was creating a variable resistance product for people who they don't really care what they lift. It's just they want to be as
Yes.
strong and as muscular if that's what their intention is, or just strong and lean if that's their intention as possible. And so, and then I also made a lot of observations about just general fitness. When I started talking about this and not even launched the product yet, but just started putting some things out on the internet, I noticed how much pushback I got when I talked about how what I believe was weightlifting is a waste of time by comparison. Like why wouldn't you use variable resistance? It's crystal clear, it's superior. And on top of that, just answer this question for me. I would say the vast majority of people that you know that work out, think of you probably know 20 people who talk about working out all the time. How many people actually look like they work out? Maybe one, or more likely zero. Is that about
Mhm.
right? Right. Yeah. I mean, like how often do you meet somebody who doesn't look remarkable in any way whatsoever, and all they talk about is their CrossFit? Or all they
Mhm.
talk about is, oh,
Mhm.
I go to these classes, or I go to Orange Theory, or I go to Barry's boot camp. It's like, yeah, it's a good thing you told me, because I never would have known you've ever exercised ever. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the studies also on muscular growth and changes, they might take a guy who looks like Pee Wee Herman and have him put on 1 kilo of muscle, and that's considered a success. But guess what? The guy still looks like Pee Wee Herman. So what are we doing wrong? Because I went out and I started basically beating up on the fitness industry for being most failed human endeavor of all time, and I got so much pushback and hate, and I still continue to get a lot of pushback and hate. But I mean, I don't take it seriously, because scientifically, these people who are defending regular weight training, they're just wrong.
Mhm.
And so I started saying, like, regular weight training doesn't work for most people. It works great for genetic outliers. Like most of the people who went into the NFL, you look at their high school graduation picture, and you can just tell by how thick their neck is. They're just absolutely muscular while they're in high school. Well, so did they figure this all out because of some special training method when they were 16 years old? No. When you're 16 years old, you figure out nothing. You might think you're an expert, but you're extra stupid.
Mhm.
So, like, what is it? It's got to be some genetic difference. There are genetic differences. It really has to do with where the tendons attach and how much engagement you get in the weakest, like when the bar's on your chest, bench press, or when you're really low in a squat, for example, the weakest range of motion. However, there's a way to fix the genetic deficiency that I'm estimating about 99% of the population has. And it is variable resistance. It was back to the Louis Simmons answer, the West Side Barbell answer. So wrote a book called Weightlifting is a Waste of Time. It was a Wall Street Journal. It is a Wall Street Journal bestseller, and I talk about the whole like research process of like how I came
Mhm.
to that conclusion. And what it ended up being is there's this great little product. It's $500. It's a variable resistance training device called X3. It saves people massive amounts of time and actually gives them results. Like your audience, entrepreneurs, small business owners, they want to be fit. And it's
Mhm.
probably a priority to most of them, or at least it should be, because it's a statement of character. When people see me and they see that I'm in shape, they know I'm a disciplined person. That's just like, I'm so much more interesting as somebody who someone would want to do business with as a result of that. And that just it echoes in every like part of my life. And to get that, it's just what we're doing is a very strategic approach to putting the most load through a muscle that you can possibly get, and then waiting for the body to respond. And it does. When you exhaust the way variable resistance has you exhaust, you get a lot more work out of the muscle before fatigue, and you get to go to fatigue multiple times, because since the weight changes, I'll push all the way out until like in a chest press, until I can't. And then I shorten the range of motion. So I might only be doing a 3/4 rep for 2 reps, and then a half rep for maybe 1.5. And then I'm doing really short repetitions. So like my starting weight that I'm working with in a chest press is 550 pounds. I built up to that because I've become very strong. I can hit that 550 pounds maybe 20 times. But then I start I'm unable to go further or continue. And so I'm doing shorter reps with less weight. And it just adjusts by itself because I'm pushing these thick latex bands that can provide that kind of force, but it enables me to, in just 1 or 2 or 3 sets, go to fatigue, to a more complete fatigue in every range of motion, which is something you can never do with a weight. Very powerful stimulus. I grow with every workout. It's noticeable, and I don't have to spend that much time doing it. There's 2 sort of versions of the program. When you get your X3, you can either do the standard program, which is much more strength focused, and then the hypertrophy program, which is focused on muscle growth. So somebody who wants to be strong and lean goes to the first program. Somebody who wants to be as big as possible and as strong as possible, they go for the second program. And then we also have a West Side Barbell program, because since there was so much synergy there, I'm now working with West Side Barbell. That isn't even out yet. That's coming, but that's for the people who want to be the absolute ultimate peak. So it's not for everybody, but it's serious.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting. So what you're saying is, based on the research that you've done, based on the work that you've done with these athletes and, you know, people that you've trained around the world, that latex bands, you're using latex bands. People are listening to this, they're watching the video, they're not seeing the machine in front of them right now. So describe what the experience or look or feel of this machine is. Like, people can imagine in their minds what they do when they go to the gym and they pick up a set of barbells, or they dumbbells, and they're, weightlifting. What is the experience of this alternatively? The new year is fast approaching, and there isn't a business owner out there that doesn't realize that with the speed of change and disruption in the market, your business needs to be relevant. Its products, programs, and services need to come across as timely, and they have to meet an urgent need with a competitive edge in the way that you position your brand. Now is the time to reinvent yourself and your business. Step into your true calling as a leader, living your faith, building your empire, and creating millions of dollars of revenue and impact in the world. If you want to learn more about how you can step into your new era, reinvent your business, and catapult your growth, make sure you register for the Reinvention Roadmap and give you a step-by-step plan to crystallize your new era, elevate your voice and your brand, and create the next level of success in 2025. Scroll down below this episode, click the link, and get yourself registered now.
So there's an Olympic bar with a hook on each end, and then the hook swivels on the inside. So it has a core that connects the 2 hooks. And what you're really grabbing onto is a bearing protected sleeve, anodized aluminum sleeve that goes over that core bar. That allows you to optimize your wrist position no matter where the bar is. Like, if you pick it up and then end up like going from like a deadlift position to an overhead press position, like, you don't have to keep re-gripping the bar. It rotates with you just like an Olympic bar.
Interesting. Okay.
And then the hooks then connect to the latex banding, which will go all the way up to 700 pounds. And since you are 7 times stronger than you think you are, based on how this works, you actually do want that. I know people hear that and they're like, well, I will never train with that. And it's like, yeah, you will.
Interesting. Okay. So I have a couple questions. First of all, how long is the ideal workout using the X3?
2 answers to that question. If you want to be as strong as possible, 10 minutes, 6 days a week. Okay. So, put it in your morning routine. Right after you brush your teeth, you do 10 minutes.
How much space does someone need?
Oh, it fits in a drawer when you're done with it. Because there's a plate that's 19.5 inches wide and 7 inches deep. That's what you stand on. And the bands run underneath in a channel. So you're about an inch elevated off the ground. And the bands can move freely underneath. Then they connect to the bar. So really, you're grabbing the bar and you're standing on the plate. Not all exercises, like a chest press, you don't need the plate because the band goes around your body and push away from yourself. So when you're done with it, it can fit in a drawer. You can put it in a backpack. We even have a carrying case. You can throw it over your shoulder, and the whole thing weighs 15 pounds.
That's amazing. Okay. So tell me a little bit about going back to the research that you did, which you were kind of saying, how so many people that go to the gym, you would never know they go to the gym, which I agree with. That is definitely a common thing that we all see and
Like
experience.
99.9% of
Yeah.
people. And I just find it like completely disgusting that people want to argue with me and say, no, weightlifting is great. And it's like, how come? And it's always said by some person with a double chin and baby arms. It's like, really? Are you sure? Have you taken a look in the mirror? And I think there's two things going on. Partially, I think men have a tendency of just imagining they're strong and they're not. But the women don't have this problem. This is a men's thing. And then another thing is when you don't get very good results in the gym, you just sort of quietly quit as a male, because not a lot of males want to rant online or anywhere about their inadequacies.
Mm-hmm.
This is another thing guys don't do. So it's like, well, how come most people aren't complaining that they're not getting results in the gym? Really, you know, a lot of guys that say like, oh, I'm genetically, like, I don't know, something wrong with me.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah, no, guys
So
don't understand that.
are you saying that it is the reason that so many people don't get results from weightlifting because they're not doing it appropriately? They're like positioning and their use of the equipment is wrong? Or you're saying that it's actually because of their genetic makeup, them doing two people could do the same exact thing, and for one person, it's not actually doing anything for them?
The latter. It's that for most people, and there's quite a bit of studies about non-responders or low responders. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
studies typically say like half the people are non-responders, and the
Okay.
other half of people
Okay.
will respond. But
Okay.
remember what I said in the beginning of the podcast, like if you take somebody who looks like Pee Wee Herman and you put 1 kilo of muscle on him, he still looks like Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
So it's like for researchers, like, look, this guy can grow muscle, so he's part of the 50%. Yeah, okay. Well, can he get beyond that or not?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the
Mm-hmm.
answer is not.
Mm-hmm.
The key statistic here is I get most strength athletes and coaches. I ask them this question. Well, would you agree that a 200 for males, a 225-pound bench press for one repetition is kind of like how you graduate from being a beginner to maybe an intermediate strength athlete? And you can probably tell they've done some strength work. Would you agree with that statement? And they always say like, yeah, okay. Yeah, 225 bench press. Like some of them might say you need to do it 5 reps, not one, but
Mm-hmm.
okay. Let's say 1 rep. And then I say, what percentage of the population? Now, when I'm talking to fit people, they'll say 30%, 10%, 20%. The answer is less than 1/2 of 1% of males can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So less than 1/2 of 1% can hit like the barely, I'm like hardly even look like I'm exercising threshold. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
now it's not just about who in a study can gain a couple pounds of muscle. It's who can actually do something that puts them even marginally away from the normal person who doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's less than 1/2 of 1%.
Very
Like to
interesting.
me, it's
Yeah.
like why are we even talking about weightlifting? It clearly does not serve the vast majority. Now, if you're a genetic outlier, if you go and pick up weights and you put on 20 pounds of muscle in 6 months, okay, well, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably be a pro athlete or do whatever you want. But
Mm-hmm.
that's almost nobody. In fact, the
Yeah.
people who are like that tend to be in the NFL. Like it's very
Right.
obvious from childhood who they are.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but you work with a lot of professional athletes that actually use the X3. So
Oh
how
yeah,
do
it
you,
gives them an advantage too, because
yeah,
everybody's weaker in their weak range.
right.
Like when you
Right.
lower the bar to your chest, you're still not as strong as when your arms are fully extended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
So
is
like,
there, I mean, I would assume there is a far less risk of injury using resistance versus weights. What is the difference, I guess, to the body from the standpoint of like joints and functionality and all of those things between using weights versus resistance and all of those things?
So a bunch of studies have been done on the idea that you can train a lot heavier with variable resistance without the risk of joint injury. Because
Mm-hmm.
like ultimately, and this is just, some people don't like hearing this, but there's no getting away from heavy. Like people who train light are people who are not doing shit.
Mm-hmm.
You have to train heavy. However, you can have a strategy for training heavy
Mm-hmm.
like this, where you put heavy loads on the body where the body is capable of producing those heavy loads. And
Mm-hmm.
when you lower the weight and go into the more awkward or weaker positions, the weight drops. It doesn't drop to zero. It drops to, maybe a fifth or a
Mm-hmm.
third, depending on which exercise and how much range of motion there is. So for a couple of things. So you are easier on the joints, and then you're able to stimulate more because you're going to fatigue in a diminishing range. So you
Mm-hmm.
hit maybe 5 fatigue points per set, which is almost like doing 5 sets,
Right.
which is why it's so time efficient.
Fascinating. And I mean, it's shocking to think you can do this in 10 minutes a day with something that is portable and can go in your drawer when you're done. That sounds
Yeah.
like a good solution for a lot of business owners.
On my YouTube channel, the Jaquish Biomedical YouTube channel, you'll have to put a link to that because nobody can spell my last name.
Yes, we
Uh,
will put a link to that. We will put a link to
yeah,
that. People are going to want to see what it looks like and how to use
right.
it and all the good things.
Yeah, but on that channel, there's a study that a physical therapist did in somewhere in Michigan. I want to say Sterling, Michigan. He had a group doing regular weight training, and he had a group using X3. And the X3 group exercised only about, I want to say, 25% of the amount of time that the other group did. The other group followed the American College of Sports Medicine standard muscle growth program. And the X3 group grew more muscle in only a small fraction of the time.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Well, I'm excited for all of the listeners to go and check out the X3 and see what this is all about and how it might help solve their problem of wanting to protect their health, but never feeling like they have enough time to do it. And also space, right? People can have this right in their home office and put it right next to their desk and do in between their Zoom calls. So sounds
That's
like
exactly how I use
yeah, yeah. No, that's great. I love it. Any other kind of tips, advice, strategy that you want to share? And then let's just tell people where they can go. Give them the YouTube channel. We'll put it down below as well. But any other links or information that you want to share to have them check out as a next step?
it. So to best place to look for me is just my website because that links to all my socials, so you can follow me wherever
Mhm.
is most convenient for you. So it's drj.com, DOCTOR, the letter J.com. And then of course, like I probably do the most on Instagram and maybe second YouTube.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. All right. Well, thanks for the work that you're doing. And for everybody listening, if you've been looking for an alternative to spending long hours in the gym, you want to lift, you want to get fit, you want to build muscle, but you want an alternative to do that faster and quicker,
An
check.
alternative that will actually give you results instead of whatever you're
Yes.
doing now, which 99% chance is nothing.
Maybe, maybe for anyone listening that feels like you're going to the gym all the time, but it doesn't look like you're going to the gym all the time. Maybe this is a solution for you. So we'll put all the links down below. John, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Thanks for the work that you're doing to help millions of people to take back their health. And for everybody listening, take action, share this episode with someone it can make a difference for, and we'll see you back here next week.